Welcome to Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon Series. I am your host, Captain Matt, and today we're talking about pontoons versus TriToons. What are the pros? What are the cons? When would you want to get a pontoon? Why would you want to spend the extra money to get a TriToon? So let's jump in and first talk definition. So pontoon is going to be, it's kind of everything is a pontoon, but when we're talking in this video, the pontoon is going to be a twin tube, a two-tube boat. The TriToon, also referred to as triple tube, triple toon, triple log pontoon, is going to be the full-length pontoon. So you've got 3 full-length tunes, or what I call the Sport-Toon, which is 2 pontoons and then about a 2/3 length tune that doesn't go all the way down. We'll talk about each of those and when and why you would want to go one over another. So the first thing is the Tri-Toon. By adding that third tube in there, you're going to increase your structural support by 25 to 50% more. If it's a Sport-Toon, it's going to be 25 or so. If it is the full length, you're actually adding 50% more buoyancy and structural support, which is going to allow you to put a larger horsepower engine on that's heavier, and that's going to produce more torque on that back end, on that engine pod. If you look on the pontoon, that engine pod's just mounted to the brackets and the bracing. On the TriToon, the full length, it's actually going to be mounted, that engine pod is going to be integrated into that pontoon. And so it can handle much more torque, much more horsepower, much more weight, okay? So next, you've got the investment in the TriToon. Because of that extra material, you're going to have just the base boat with the same motor is going to cost $3,000 to $10,000 more. Now, the Sport-Toon is going to be closer to $3,000. The full-length pontoon, or that full-length tube, is going to be closer to $10,000. Every manufacturer is going to be a little bit different, but that's about the ballpark estimate on the price increase. Now, what else does it get you? Well, because you've got that extra tube, you've got 25 to 50% more buoyancy, because you've added more buoyancy with that third tune with the same load. You'll see these are the folks from the Lake of the Ozarks that had that big spill, ended up on Family Guy. They've got some friends with them. That boat with the same crew on board is going to float higher in the water. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that you're going to get better performance, because those pontoons aren't chugging through the water like you would if you just had 2 tunes. With the extra buoyancy, you float up higher in the water, which means you can skim across the water more, and you're not just chugging through the water. I hope that makes sense. Definitely like this video if you're finding value here. Leave a comment if you've got questions. Subscribe to the channel. So here's what it looks like. When you're going through a rough chop and we've got a load on the boat, on the TriToon, because you typically have more weight in the back with the heavier motor, you've got more buoyancy, you're going to ride a little bit nose high. So that nose cone are actually going to just glance across the top of the water. You can see how far back where the water's hitting it. It's going to allow you to go faster. It's going to allow you to glance over the top of the waves lighter, because you're not chugging through them. You're just lightly glancing over the top. Versus the pontoon, you don't have quite as much weight in the back, so it's riding more at a flat attitude. And those tunes, the nose cones, you can see are about halfway in the water. So when you hit rough chop, it's going to have to go through those wakes, which is going to give you a little bit rougher ride up and down and a little bit more chugging back and forth, okay? Now, turning. With the TriToon, because you've got that third tube, when you turn, you can actually bank and you can ride over a little bit more on those 2 tubes. Now, every manufacturer does something in their design. Maybe they have different option packages to make that even more substantial, maybe a larger middle tune, or maybe they set the tube down a little bit lower. Maybe they have a different shape tube on that middle tube, elliptical, to give you more surface area and more banking. But whatever they do, that third tune is gonna allow it to turn a little bit sharper, to perform a little bit better, everything being equal. Now, the pontoon, well, you've got those two tubes in the water, and they've got to kind of cut their way through. They don't have anything to bank on and to pivot on because they don't have that third tube. So your handling is not quite as good. Certainly not as good at speed, being able to make a sharp turn, but even a little bit of maneuverability around the docks, although it's not significant. There is a slight difference there. So here's kind of the way I see it on the spectrum. From Pontoon to Sport-Toon, which is a little bit better, but TriToon is even more better. That's not the right way to say it, but if you have no desire for speed, you're really not going to do heavy loads and load it up with people and need speed. So, hey, if we're going to go for a booze cruise with 12 people on board, I know I'm just going to be putzing around in a pontoon. I'm not going fast at all. You have a little bit tighter budget. Hey, listen, we don't need that, and we want to keep our investment lower. If you're just going to pull kids on tubes or skis or wakeboard, and I say kids, 12, 14 years old and younger, they're not super heavy yet. They don't need to go super fast. Then the pontoon may do the trick for you. And it's a smaller size boat. So I kind of say 20 foot and under is more suited to a pontoon, because you're usually looking at a budget. You're usually not putting that much horsepower on. Then you move into the sport tube, and on the far end of the spectrum is you want more speed. Maybe you need more speed, but you definitely want it. You're going to put some heavier loads on it, and you still need that speed. So you're going to put 8 people on the boat, and you still want to have a larger adult slalom skiing. You're going to do more adult sports, more aggressive tubing with the kids, not just putting them out there and dragging them around, but you actually want to whip them around and really get more aggressive, or like I said, slalom skiing with larger people. And larger size boats. So usually I say kind of 22 feet and above is where you start. All right, now we'll start looking at TriToons as we are needing those other things and wanting those other things. We talk about a lot of this in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, is how to choose the right style of boat. And I talk about the 80% rule. So as you're looking at those, kind of look at the 80% rule of, hey, where do I want to be? What's important to me? So when I look at horsepower, and I've got a bunch of different videos that you can find on the channel that go into more specific details, but when I look at less than 90 horsepower, I'm almost always going to say, if you're going to go with that horsepower, then the Tri-Toon isn't going to be a significant advantage. At 115, hey, maybe we're going to put some heavier loads on it. Maybe we need that extra buoyancy. Maybe we want a little bit better performance, a little bit better turning radius, and we're going to do some water sports. Then I might put a Sport-Toon on, get that extra buoyancy, get more out of the motor. At 150, I would say don't do a pontoon with the 150. Move up to that sport tube. You're going to get, because of the extra weight of the motor itself, because of the better performance that you're going to get by putting it on a sport tube with lifting strakes, or a full pontoon. And then anything over a 200 horsepower, 400 twins, you're definitely going to need the structural support of that full length pontoon in the center. That third Tri-Toon, it needs to be that full length. That's going to give you the extra sturdy support to keep that boat solid when you've got so much torque. A 200 horsepower is going to put a lot of torque on it, and you'll even find that many of the Sport-Toon models, they only have a max horsepower of 150 horsepower. So you can kind of tell based on that is what they're going to hold up to. And again, check those other videos on the channel for first time pontoon buyer advice. How much does pontoons truly cost? The unbiased truth. More about the horsepower. If you're looking new, go into some reviews and what your salesman won't tell you about pontoons. So check those out if you're interested. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you like this content. YouTube suggested a video, probably one that I just talked about. And again, hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that this information is valuable. Thanks a lot. And remember, life truly is better on a boat.